Start the meeting, actually. Sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Just letting a few people in. We're really happy to have you all here. We've got 31 people and counting, so great turnout. Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm just going to check maybe Matthew or Linda, someone from the committee. Oh, yes, great. I see hands up there. Thank you very much. Awesome. Well, we've got people still coming on, but we will start on time. So I'll open the meeting now. Welcome to the annual meeting for 2024. We've opted for this online meeting particularly for this reason, so we can have as many people, growers, members and stakeholders to attend as possible. So this is an excellent turnout and I'm really happy with that. Just some housekeeping to start us off. Just want to welcome Damien is here, and also we've got the members from our committee here, and also welcome to Tony, our ex-chair that we see is online as well. If you could just keep your phones on mute, and unless you're asking a question, and just raising your hand and use the chat function to ask any questions that Damien will keep an eye on. We will have time for more questions at the end, so if there's anything we cannot address during the meeting, then we'll do so then. This year we have no motions from members to be considered, and the meeting will be recorded, as you may note on the above left, for those who can't make the meeting, and it will be shared on the website and via the New Zealand HortNZ web newsletter later this week. So, introductions. Welcome again, and for those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Bernadine, and I'm the NZGAP Committee Chairperson. I took over from Tony Howie last October. I'm also on the HortNZ board, so I was opted to come onto this committee via HortNZ. And I have a background in consumer research, consumer behavioural research, and work with Ball Brothers, which is my family's business, based in Pukekohe vegetable growers. I hope to assist the team in strengthening the reputation of NZGAP that has been built over the last 25 years that we're going to talk about a little bit later on, and continue to progress the interests of growers and stakeholders and consumers alike through this trusted system. Moving on to, just Damien, did you want to do an introduction or anything? You happy?
Sure. Damien, for those who don't know me, manager of the NZGAP program, joined in 2015, and to Bernie's point, also really excited about where we're at in the journey of NZGAP, and hope today we can just give you a quick update on where things are at. Today we'll really focus on the mandatory topics for our annual meeting, give you a quick update on the 25th anniversary, and then later in the year we'll give you an update on the work program and some of the developments that we're currently doing.
Great, thanks Damien. I think you've just run through the agenda, so we'll just move to the next slide if that works for you. So strategy for 2022 to 2027. So this is the committee undertook this work last year, and the vision for NZGAP is to enable the production and the supply of safe and sustainable food. NZGAP being an enabler by developing and implementing agreed standards which are tailored to growing in New Zealand specifically and are accessible to our growers. Our purpose is to provide simplified, cost-effective and integrated assurance in New Zealand which is trusted and valued. Trust is essential for protecting growers' social licence to operate, as you all know, and enabling growers to sell our produce. NZGAP has not only served as a pathway to market access, but is increasingly becoming a means to align growers with regulatory and community expectations. Trust also enables the formal recognition of NZGAP, which in turn minimises the duplication, cost, and the burden for growers in an increasingly complex growing environment. NZGAP's role is to provide integrated solutions which work for horticulture and are practical for growers to implement. Just moving on to the next slide, moving on to the election for 2024. Matthew Bannister, who is with us on the call, joined the committee in 2017 and has reached the end of his current term. He is currently the vice chairperson of the committee and runs a citrus grower group for First Fresh in Gisborne. Nominations for the election were sought from NZGAP members in recent weeks, and the members are the product groups, just as a reminder, and district associations who have an affiliation with HortNZ. Matthew was the only transition, nomination, so was re-elected unopposed. Congratulations, Matthew. We're delighted that you're getting onto the committee, particularly for me. I found you're in all great support with your experience on the committee and in the industry. And just as a bit of an intro to the NZGAP committee, for those of you who don't know, so we've got Damien. I'd like to thank Damien and the team for their dedication to NZGAP this year and their ongoing commitment to delivering on the strategy and the ambitious work program. Unfortunately, we'll be saying goodbye to Dana, who is our certification administrator, who's moving to Sydney next month. I think Dana is on the call too. So just wanting to acknowledge your contribution, Dana, that you've made to the program over the past 2 years, and we all wish you well with your future endeavours across the Tasman. Moving on to financial statements. So these have been received from the auditors, our auditors BDO, and are included in the annual report that you may have seen. Operational income was just over 1,450,000, and the total income, as you can see there, including the project income. Thanks to Sustainable Food and Fibres Futures for their grant supporting the development of our project seeking Global Food Safety Initiative recognition, and thanks to Growing Change for supporting the development and rollout of our environment management system add-on. As outlined in the finance report, NZGAP is primarily funded via the annual registration fees from certified growers, operators. There was a significant increase in revenue last year, primarily due to the increased audit fees, which are on-charged by NZGAP. There have been no increase since 2019, though people and travel costs have increased significantly in that time. We recognise the cost implications for growers and are working hard with audit bodies to find efficiencies and reduce costs and increase the value of the audits. Moving on to the expenditure. The major increase was associated with audit costs, as you can see here, followed by increased overhead costs. Regarding project expenditure, there has also been a major development underway for our food safety programs and our internal certification database. Overall, we posted a net deficit of 28,380, which was expected given the significant development that we've currently got underway. Just moving on to the next slide, we have currently 536,792 in general reserve. The primary reason for the deficit results in the last 2 years have been the delay in audits compared to budget as a hangover from COVID, as well as deferred audits where growers were impacted by cyclones. These were given extensions to their audit date. NZGAP also worked with many growers to pause their certification and enter payment plans where required. It is very encouraging to see so many growers re-enter certification recently after what has been a really difficult year for many of them in the sector. Just wanting to see if anyone has any questions at this point. Just raising your hand or coming into the chat. No? Okay, thank you. So next slide, looking to the year ahead. The budget for 2024-25 has been approved by the NZGAP committee and the HortNZ board. Operational income and expenditure remains broadly to last year, while project income and expenditure has increased substantially due to developments for our food safety programs and a comprehensive review of the environment management system for freshwater farm plans. While a deficit is forecast, the committee decided not to increase the registration fees, and management also negotiated no increase in audit fees due to the big increase we had last year and uncertainty caused by the many changes planned for the coming year. The team have effectively split operational and development costs, including strategy and innovation. Increased external funding is being sought with a view that the currently certified operators are not expected to fund future developments. Our business model is also being reviewed to consider fairer registration and audit fees based on risk, scale, and performance of our operators. Any questions here? Okay, thank you. The annual report is available now if you haven't seen it yet, and will soon be published on the NZGAP website. It will also be circulated in the New Zealand HortNZ newsletter this week. It includes an update from Damien and I and an overview of our certification metrics for 2024. The full finance report that you've seen today will be there, and also an insight into our 25-year celebration event that we had in Wellington recently. Just moving on to the next slide. It's truly an honour for me to be chairing the committee as we celebrate the 25 years of NZGAP. What began as a vision to certify safe production of fresh produce has developed into a comprehensive assurance framework, guiding growers towards market access and regulatory compliance in the horticultural industry. For those of you who were able to attend, it was a wonderful event, cocktail style, managed by Damien and the team, to mark the celebration in Wellington. In attendance were founders, growers, retailers, wholesalers, auditors, regulators, product groups, district associations, HortNZ members, and current and former New Zealand GAP committee members, as well as former managers. We had guest speakers, so thanks to Mike Butterick from the Wairarapa MP, he's the Wairarapa MP, Vincent Arbuckle, the Deputy Director General of New Zealand Food Safety, and Glenn Booley, the Merchandise Manager of Woolworths New Zealand. They emphasised the important role NZGAP plays in delivering a risk-based approach to safe and sustainable production, which provides confidence to stakeholders and simplifies requirements for growers. I'd just like to take a moment to thank our Platinum event sponsor, Woolworths New Zealand, and our gold sponsors, Foodstuffs North Island and Foodstuffs South Island, for making the event happen and a series of publications possible. The buy-in and support of the retailers and wholesalers has enabled NZGAP to remain both relevant and current. We have been using the celebration of the 25 years as an opportunity to reflect on the past and consider opportunities for the future of assurance, just as the founders did back in the 90s. Just moving on to the next slide. When researching the early years of NZGAP, you can't go far without seeing the name of Russell Jordan. He himself will say that there were numerous others that helped, and I'm sure he was right. However, he was the driving force, and we all recognise that. Ron Gall, who was the Executive Officer of the Vegetable Federation when NZGAP was established, who sadly passed away in 2021, is also recognised here for his commitment to the establishment of NZGAP. At this point, I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge the founding groups of NZGAP that you can see here. The support, advocacy and funding were essential to get the program up and running in the early years until it became financially self-sufficient in the early 2000s. Though only established in 1999, the approved supplier program was soon implemented after development and trials of the standard. The first certified grower post-trials was Master and Sons Limited. So they're a vegetable grower from the Bombay Hills, just in the road from my family near Pukekohe. And Jay Masters was recently presented with an award at the Pukekohe Vegetable Growers Association AGM to recognise and acknowledge their enduring commitment to safe and sustainable production of vegetables after 25 years of certification. This thing, congratulations once again to Jay and the family. The event in Wellington was a great opportunity to encourage engagement between NZGAP and the stakeholders. A lot of the photos there, Damien, we recognise the value that it brings in protecting growers' social licence to operate and simplifying how growers meet market and regulatory requirements. Mike Butterick, who is in the top right-hand corner, said that minimising complexity makes sense to him and that he looks forward to seeking more simplification and further red tape reduction, which we were happy to hear. The government has also recently committed to integrating existing industry assurance programs into the freshwater farm plan system. This is great news for horticulture as it enables recognition of programs like the NZGAP Environment Management System, which is trusted, robust, and meets the desired policy outcomes. Just on the next slide, wanting to acknowledge Russell, Chris and Tony. Tony's on the call, who chaired NZGAP from 1999 to 2023. Their vision and leadership has guided NZGAP to where it is today. And the horticulture sector is quite diverse. It's very diverse, including many stakeholders with very differing needs. So, however, the collaborative approach taken by our leaders has helped set NZGAP up for success from foundation to the present day. I'd also like to acknowledge Ron, Peter, Matthew, I see Peter's on the call too. Hi, Peter. Matthew and Damien, who have managed and developed NZGAP growers towards market access and regulatory compliance with a vision of a one-stop shop certification. In the process, they have ensured that NZGAP continues to empower growers to demonstrate safe and sustainable production of fresh fruit and vegetables and to meet the expectations of millions of consumers. Just taking a moment here, I've been talking a lot, so any questions or any comments, more than welcome now. Okay. Otherwise we'll continue. So just looking forward, NZGAP is currently undertaking a comprehensive review of our food safety programs. This includes a review of the flagship NZGAP standard, which has evolved over the 25 years and is now used by almost 1,500 growers, pack houses, transporters and wholesalers. The checklist has had a significant review to increase the focus on outcomes, simplify requirements, increase clarity, align with new standards and adopt the latest guidance. The program rules have also been rewritten to increase clarity and consistency across the NZGAP programs. Just keeping an eye out for an announcement seeking feedback on the new checklist and rules in the coming weeks. And please don't hesitate to complete the feedback form or get in touch with Kate or Mel from the team to discuss any feedback directly. We really appreciate and would require your input into the review process, and we want to ensure that they're user-friendly and practical for you as the growers. Any questions here on this review? Otherwise, if you have any questions later on, then you can definitely contact Damien or I also. And finally, we would like to invite you to come and speak to us at the NZGAP stand at the Horticulture Conference, which is coming up in Tauranga between the 28th and the 30th of August. And marking our 25th year, our focus will be the future of assurance and the review of our core food safety programs and the review of our environment management system. We're also finalising plans for a breakout session on NZGAP in the afternoon of Thursday, the 29th of August. And the conference registration links will be put in the chat for you, so that we hope to see you there and hope to see you at the session. Otherwise, if there's no other comments from anyone here now, then we're already ready to close. So thank you for attending the NZGAP meeting and listening to our update. Happy for you to have questions now. We've got 12 minutes before we are due to stop, so welcome them here or anything else. Damien's just put the link to the events into the chat, if anyone who wants to click on that now. Hi, Emma. See your hand raised.
Thank you. Sorry, my microphone was unavailable. I just wanted to double.
Oh, you've cut out.
The checklist that I've reviewed so far for the New Zealand GAP update versus where the global GAP equivalent is sitting. And it's really still really different. Is that going to be a continued direction for New Zealand GAP, or are they going to come into line at some point?
Damien, do you want to?
Sure, great question. So that NZGAP Global GAP Equivalent Program was the first to be reviewed, and as part of that review, we're using that as the base for the core certification program as well. So the feedback that you provided a couple of months ago, that was on the full food safety program as well as the Global GAP control points, usually primarily around sustainability. And what's going to be consulted now in the next couple of weeks is basically a subset of that, which is just the food safety questions. So you'll see absolute alignment across the programs is pretty much the same for that food safety component.
Okay. And in terms of things like the business continuity plan and stuff, do we feel that's slightly excessive maybe for smaller growers who are really just sort of coming through the New Zealand GAP so that they've just literally got food safety, or is that certainly the direction that's being pushed from other stakeholders?
Could you repeat that question? There's a bit in there.
So in the New Zealand GAP one, they had quite a bit on business continuity and having a business continuity plan. And I'm wondering if that's a little bit of overkill, especially for smaller growers, or is that being pushed by other stakeholders that we're unaware of?
Fair. And Mel would probably have to answer that question. She's not online today. As far as I'm aware, that's not a requirement in the core standard, which is says more focused. And what we're trying to get to is like kind of a tiers of certification where that's you've got NZGAP local, which is really sensible primarily for small growers and also the domestic market. A step up to NZGAP Excess, which has those export requirements in there, like GFSI requirements, and then the third step in NZGAP Global, which will have things like that, which are more driven by Global Gap rather than needed for the New Zealand market or for smaller growers. So yeah, we're trying to keep it as sensible as possible for the local market.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Damien. We've just got two. We've just, Bobby, just before then, we've got Debbie who just put a question into the chat. So if we just, I'll read that to Damien first and then we'll go to Bobby. So from Debbie, if NZGAP considers itself a one-stop shop, why the add-ons which just increase the costs which have become prohibitive for small growers?
Good question. So one-stop shop, I suppose we're talking about the NZGAP pathway being one-stop shop, and then we have the modules for food safety, social practice, environment. And rather than pushing everyone, mandating everyone up to the highest common denominator, let's say, if it was social practice, then everyone would have to have moved at the exact same time. So we've taken this modular approach, which enables people to adopt the modules that they're required to from the market or from a regulatory perspective. And so in that sense, still a one-stop shop with the extra modules. I do take your point, though, that it has increased costs for growers. It is an increase in scope, where when NZGAP was established in the 90s, health and safety and then food safety were the main issues. But social practice has become a real driver globally and in New Zealand. That so it's extra level of trust and assurance needed that regulatory and market requirements have been met. So NZGAP has pushed pretty hard to get sensible requirements there. Realised it's not ideal for growers. It's seen as increased compliance because NZGAP is the one that's delivering the solution. However, we also appreciate that without NZGAP, another scheme will be set up. That's what they did in Australia. They set up a completely separate scheme just for social practice, and that wouldn't be a good outcome. Or you would have to be pushed into something like SEDEX Meta or GRASP, which only goes with Global Gap. So while not ideal, that increase in scope, we've done it in what we think is the most effective way to try and minimize the compliance burden. And we've created options like the no workers pathway, where small family operations don't need to get audits, which is would be just additional costs without any real benefit.
Thanks, Damien. Bobby, you've got your hand raised.
You should be able to unmute and...
Yeah. We can see your videos coming up, but it hasn't quite come up yet. There you go, you're unmuted. Can't hear you though.
You're having trouble, Bobby. Maybe if you could just type your question into the chat.
Anyone else while we're just waiting for Bobby? Oh, there we go. We can hear you now, I think.
Oh, okay, cool.
Hi.
So, hi. I saw that Farmable, the app is now part of Global Gap, or it's a community member. What's NZGAP doing regarding Farmable? Because I quite like the app. I'm just wondering if you guys are doing anything around that.
Thanks, Bobby. One of the areas that we're struggling to get the extra funding, I suppose, resource to develop, and thinking about the roles and responsibilities in technology development for those grower-facing tools. We are very much aware of what Global Gap are doing and the options that are out there, and be comforted to hear that we are doing some trials. It'll be in the environmental space this year, looking at those grower-facing tools that will help, I think, minimise the data entry, hopefully be able to reduce the paper-based systems if that's what growers want, but also facilitate the off-site audit. So to be able to share some records with the auditor, so that we will reduce the on-site time. And so that's one of our projects over the next year, but we haven't done a huge amount over the last number of years, as I say, primarily because it is an additional thing which requires investment and funding, and we've been trying to do the core development of the standards and recognition to date.
Okay.
Keep an eye out.
Thanks, Damien. Yeah, yes. Thanks, Bobby. Anybody else to make any comments or questions? Otherwise, if not, we'll close the meeting with 4 minutes to spare. So don't hesitate to come in to get into contact once again if anything else comes up after this call. But otherwise, on behalf of the team, we'd like to really thank you for the time you've taken today. We had 43 participants, which is awesome. So appreciate the time you've all taken. And have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
See you later on.
See ya.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. See ya. Damien, should we stop the recording now? Are you still there, Damien?